Hello, hello, hello. You're listening to the Liverpool Improvisation Festival interviews. I'm Hal Munger, and joining me now on the line is Matt Vaughan-Wilson from Breakfast of Champions.
Hello, Hal.
Hi, Matt. It's a pleasure to meet you here today. Your show, The Big Breakfast, has
That's
a
right.
very short description on the website, as was mentioned, so I don't quite know what's coming into it. So I've got a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
And the first one that I've been asking everybody is who your improv ancestors are. There's a show at the festival that's themed around ancestors, and I want to know for yourself and the breakfast group, what are the improv influences that affect the way you play?
It's a great question. The group is here in Birmingham, and we all have, or most of us have, the same teacher who is actually part of this group. So John Trevor, who couldn't join us for this interview, but John has been teaching improv in Birmingham since 2008, 2009. I was one of his first students. I'm not going to suggest that I'm an advert for what he can do, but I've been there kind of from more or less the start. And John's been really pivotal, actually. He hates it when we kind of pay tribute to him because he's still very much around and improvising. But I mean, he is someone who's been at the heart of the Birmingham scene right from the start. Like there are so many improvisers here on the scene who learned from him, and now we get to play with him on a regular basis. I think like a lot of the things that for me are important in improv are things that I've taken on from John. So he's very much in that kind of Keith Johnston tradition. It's very much about digging into characters, not going for the easy laugh, relationships. And the show that we have is very much driven by it. It's very funny. I always feel when we talk about it, when I talk about it, it sounds like a very serious show because we're trying to dig into character and we're not afraid to have those moments of poignancy. But it is quite a silly show at the same time. But ultimately, we're trying to find that kernel of that emotional change. Like, what does that character want? Do they get what they want? That's kind of what makes a story. So yeah, I think we're in that tradition, and it's quite theatrical kind of stuff. We like throwing a lot of theatrical techniques onto the stage. We have lots of scene painting, lots of narration in the show. So maybe that gives you a sense. There's lots of things we like to play with as well outside of that, but that's what we always come back to. That's the reflex for us. That kind of character-driven, Johnstonian kind of school.
Okay, it's starting to paint in those details of the Big
Mm-hmm.
Breakfast, but I'm still dying to know a little more about the Big Breakfast. So, can you let me know what show you're going to be bringing to the festival?
Sure. Okay. So we do struggle to describe it, but let's go with so what we do is we present three very short plays which are intertwined. So you'll see three sets of two characters,
Hmm.
and each of those sets there will be a main character who's like the protagonist of that thread,
Hmm.
and we find out what it is they want in life. What are they unhappy about? What do they regret? What is their big dream? And we see over the course of then three scenes, we have monologues in there as well. We see whether they get what they want or not. They either succeed or fail. There is a theme taken from an object that we have as a suggestion, but mainly it is about seeing those three characters having a kind of emotional arc.
Hmm.
Do they succeed or do they fail over the course of those three scenes and one monologue?
Wow. Do their stories intertwine, or are they three distinct entities?
They're three distinct entities because we're not that good at telling stories.
Hmm.
So where this whole thing came from, we as a group we really wanted to. We're really interested in narrative. We formed as a group to do long form. There wasn't another group in Birmingham that we were aware of that was doing long form at the time. And the stuff we started out with was doing the Armando, doing the Harold, but we really wanted to do a narrative piece. What we found was when we tried to do narrative, it would get far too complex way
Hmm.
too quickly. We'd get really bogged down in lots of plot elements. So eventually we realized that what was really interesting, what was drawing our attention was like the individual characters and the kind of hopes and dreams that we heard from them. So we tried to strip it back and make that the kind of focal point. So we're looking for those moments. Okay, we know what this person wants. We know what they're dissatisfied with. Let's dig into that, and everything then becomes channeled in on that. As I say, it makes it sound kind of serious, which it's not. It's a very, very silly show. I must emphasize that. But that's the kind of the kernel of that's what makes it satisfying, I hope, at the end, that we've seen those characters go on that journey.
And is there any breakfast involvement?
There's no breakfast, no.
Oh,
No.
where did the breakfast come from then?
Well, from the troupe name Breakfast of Champions, and then not having a name for the format. And I mean, it's taken me like 5 minutes to try and explain what the format is. So stripping that back to like a label is very difficult. We just went with something that sounded kind of memorable.
It does sound memorable. That's why I was so curious about it. It's completely working. And you're just
so we call it that because so the other thing we've done is like we've been trying all these things in rehearsal. We'd taken so we'd started out doing a lot of scene painting because we really liked that, and then we were doing narration, and then from another show that some of us were involved in, we took monologues because we'd seen. There was a show, like a maestro show, which again is a Keith Johnston format. And there was a particular round in that where the last three improvisers each had to do a solo piece that they were given by the director a solo piece to do. And it was incredible watching people up there solo. And I've been in those rounds a couple of times as well. Just how spellbinding it was to watch one person on stage. And like when you're one person, you can do you can almost conduct the audience. You can like take them on a high and then you bring them back down low. You do all that kind of emotional highs and lows stuff. And so we thought we'd try that as well. And we weren't planning to put any of those elements into the format that we were trying to develop. But one by one, we'd be like, okay, what if we try doing this thing that was supposed to be like an exercise we do as a kind of like a kind of palate cleanser away from the format? What happens if we do it in the format itself? So because we were throwing all of these different elements on, it's like a big breakfast where you have like all the different things on the plate. That's where it came from.
So the Breakfast of Champions is strong characters, monologues, scene painting, and is there any?
So we talked about narration, didn't we? That's what it is.
All right, that's what you want on your plate when you. Okay, I'm curious about the monologues because you mentioned being on stage for like 4 minutes. That is hard. Where just solo play. How did you guys train for that?
So the ones in the show are not that kind of length of time. But so the way the monologues come in at a point where we've identified that a character has like a hope, a dream, a regret, or something. So if you think about it like a musical, we're basically doing a musical without the music, which is my favorite kind of musical, by the way. You know that point where oh shucks, if only I'd got the job on that cruise liner, I could be a sailor right now. And then they go off into a big kind of song about sailing the ocean waves and what that means to them. The monologue is kind of that equivalent, really. It's digging into, okay, we found this thing that the character wants, now over to them to just explore that and really kind of dig into that emotion. So the things we found helpful are things like, you can go to the past, you can kind of think about like if your character is unhappy, how did they get there? Like maybe they weren't always unhappy. What was the thing that changed? So like what's happened up to now? You can think about like what would the ideal future look like for them? You can almost kind of paint it out like someone is imagining their life and they're painting in all the rich details of the life that they want to have. So there are various tricks that you can bring to it. Ultimately, to be honest, you just kind of have to practice it, just like feel comfortable up there on stage doing it. So lots of reps with anything. It's kind of the only way to really do it. But yeah, if you think about it in terms of that, like it's like a musical. We're just digging into the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
That's normally the thing that unlocks it for people.
Mm-hmm. Is that why the whole show is themed around sort of wants and dreams, or what made it so that that was the particular angle that you wanted to take?
Um, that is the thing that allow. So we were looking to kind of slot in the monologues,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that is, I guess, the natural thing to hook it onto. That is because that is the thing that people don't talk about. So here's the other thing, like with improv, it's hard to do subtext. Like if I talk about how I have loads of friends and a really active social life, maybe I'm doing that because underneath it, really, I'm lonely and I'm kind of overcompensating. So in real life, we do that. We
Mm-hmm.
tell lies about ourselves. But if I say something to you on stage as a performer, you're going to take that as the reality, and you're going to yes and it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to do that kind of like things are not quite as they seem thing. A monologue allows you to do that. You have the chance then as a character to dig into, like, really, my secret fears, my secret vulnerabilities, my secret hopes are this, that, and the other. So we were kind of looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you go into it with that mindset, in any given scene, you will usually see that moment where someone says something that kind of outright says or implies, okay, there's a bit more to this. Like if if this character were on their own and they felt that they could speak freely, maybe they'd have a little bit more to say. We've all seen those scenes of a relationship, like a couple, and there's a bit of tension there. It's clear that they're not saying everything to each other like out loud. There's stuff under the surface. You just get rid of one person and hear what the things are that they're trying to repress, that they're not saying. It's I think you can do that with any scene, really, but once you're looking for it, it just allows you to dig into that and make a real feature of it.
Mm-hmm. So is the goal to have a lot of dramatic irony then in the scenes, where like the audience kind of knows the internal state, and then you get to play with that subtext, or how does the subtext work?
Uh, I think so. Maybe that's the goal, but in reality, it's not that nuanced. Because the other thing is about simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've established that someone's in an unhappy marriage, that's it. That's the thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
all we really need to see there is, they either try and patch their marriage up or they look elsewhere, and then at the end of it, they either decide they're staying with that unhappy marriage or they're going elsewhere. But like that's the simplest possible story you can
Mm-hmm.
tell, and yet it is satisfying time and again. This is the thing that we found. You can reduce a satisfying story, to that one thing. Character has a thing they want to change, like they have a go, they
Mm-hmm.
succeed or they fail. Works every time.
It's
Well,
foolproof, and it
nearly
works three
works.
times per show.
Works 70% of the time, maybe, but
Well, that takes care of two-thirds of the storylines in the show as
hell
well.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So, how long has the Breakfast of Champions been doing the Big Breakfast as their signature format, or is it your signature format?
It is our signature format. Yeah, yeah. So we've been doing it since the tail end of 2023.
Oh, beautiful. So it's coming up on its third birthday then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Are
just looking at the WhatsApp chats before coming on, and like when you go back to that point, we're like, I'm like, what are we gonna like? Is this working? How about we try this?
mhm.
So there was this moment where we just throwing lots of things together, and it finally came together around about that time, October, November 2023.
What was the moment when you knew? Were there moments of just like delight where you're like, we're locking in, we're keeping this?
It was very much trial and error,
Hmm.
uh, and I think so. This is the thing. I'm thinking now, like, because all the stuff that we've done has been either well established formats, the kind of formats that you read about in books,
Mm-hmm.
or you can go on YouTube and watch troops performing like these kind of set piece formats, or a totally random thing that we like, this weird Frankenstein format that we have that we've put together from lots of different bits that we found. So I don't know what is the normal process for developing a show. I find it hard now to think how you would like have a vision and you're like, okay, we just go from
Mm-hmm.
here to there. For me, it feels normal to just cobble lots of bits together and see
Mm-hmm.
how they work. So we had loads of those moments where we would try something that we had just brought to rehearsal just to try out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's do this for a bit and then we'll do the format. And then we had so many of those moments where you do it in the format and unbelievably it just works and it just gives you something that you never knew you were looking for before.
Mm-hmm.
Serendipity.
Has it been changing a lot over even once it's solidified then?
Uh, I think it's been pretty fixed now for the last 18 months, 2 years, maybe. The actual format, I guess, we're still experimenting with things like, so we have like the one main character, like we've sometimes had two main characters because you end up with a scene that's kind of peas in the pod. So how do you choose one of them?
Mm-hmm.
We've had shows where there have been like two main characters, so that's a real kind of departure. We've been What else have we been trying? There've been some new things come up, but annoyingly, I can't think of any of them right now.
Worry not. I'm curious. So how many champions are there at the breakfast? How many people are in this group? And what has it been like playing with them? Because you've already mentioned the playing with a long-standing teacher, which is also fascinating. But
Yeah, yeah. So in total, there are 10 of us.
on stage at the same time.
We rarely get all 10 of us
Uh-huh.
like together at one time. So it tends to be a kind of six, seven
Yeah.
person
Hmm.
show in reality. And it's a kind of slightly rotating cast.
That is a great number. That's perfect.
Mm. And we've been playing together for a long time and, know each other well, which I think is great, although it's
Mhm.
kind of, although one of the things that's in my head a lot is how we kind of bring newer groups through in
Mhm.
Birmingham. So I mean, another thing that we do as a group is, so three of us are involved in a monthly night where we bring other groups across to Birmingham from the Midlands, loosely defined. We go quite some way, north, south, east, and west, but loosely the Midlands. It's just we bring them to Thousand Trades in the Jewellery Quarter in Birmingham for this monthly show that we have. And there are so many great groups around, but after a while, you've been through a rotation and
Mhm.
you've seen most of the groups, and there aren't always. It feels like from a Birmingham standpoint that there aren't that many coming through.
Mhm.
So I think this is one of the things that we're trying to find the right balance of, like having our established group, but also trying to promote a bit of,
Mhm.
yeah, some kind of new talent coming through.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to that's a beautiful thing to foster and to influence. Like anyone who's coming next is going to be impacted by all the work that you're doing now, which is
Yeah, it's hard though. I mean, how do you do it?
hmm. Do you notice that? Like, have you seen other shows in the area start to pick up on any of the tools that you're using?
Not shows in the area, but we've been to a few festivals,
Hmm.
and I think this is a format, it's a show that improvisers appreciate, particularly because they can see the various kind of techniques that we're using behind the scenes. It's one of, and not that kind of like regular audiences love it too, but I think if you're an improviser watching it, you're kind of trying to figure out what is it we're doing, how does it
Hmm.
all fit together. Um, so when we've been to Sophia recently, we went to Sophia International Improv Festival. Like Belfast, we had the same thing. Like just lots of people asking us, like, what is the format? How do you do it?
Uh-huh.
So John has actually been to a couple of festivals and taught the format to improvisers.
Hmm.
Um, And it's interesting, yeah, like it'd be good to do a bit more of that and kind of like put down on paper what the various techniques are that we've used and how we've made it successful. So that's something that I think we'll try and do in the future is try and kind of codify it. This is how you do it.
Hmm. Yeah, who knows? Maybe if you said improv formats that people have written books about. This
Yeah,
does sound like the kind of thing that could like blow up, where suddenly everyone is doing the big breakfast. I'm
it could do. I mean, I don't want to get carried away because it's just a bunch of people larking around in a like in a play centre in Oak every Sunday night and then putting it on stage once a month or so. But you know, it's a nice little thing, and it does
uh,
have some. It's an unusual kind of selection of things.
mhm. Yeah, you mentioned the silliness to the tone of the show. I'm curious, like, what
Mm.
would be your ideal like you get near the ending of the show, how do you want the audience to be feeling? What do you want the energy in the room to be?
Yeah, so it is about kind of maintaining that balance. So the silliness comes from, and this is something that I've not really mentioned about the show. We have a lot of, so we call it. There we go. It's all coming out now. It's all falling together. So we have a lot of kind of narration going on. We talk about endowments a lot. So you'll have like two, three people on stage. Any of the other players can walk on and just interrupt and say, like, you know, this person is wearing a big top hat and a monocle or whatever it is. You know, picking up on something that's already been established, but heightening it.
Hmm.
And then that obviously becomes part of the reality, and you then just carry on the scene, adjusting to that.
Hmm.
So there is a lot of kind of, oh, I see something, let me go and kind of crank that up a couple of notches. And in the early scenes, we have a lot of that. There is an awful lot of kind of walking on,
Hmm.
describing what people are wearing, um, describing how the kind of their physical features, how they carry themselves, little bits of backstory as well. That's a really good kind of catalyst for getting into the. You see that thing that okay, I like that. That's nice. That's funny. Let me just
Hmm.
up a couple of levels, and then get on. So that's where the silliness, a lot of the silliness comes from,
Hmm.
and then all the kind of walk-ons and stuff. But then at the end, we come back to the monologues again. So the very last thing we see is the three main characters, each of them standing on stage side by side, like doing their own little mini monologue, but it's not. So it's intertwining at that point, even though they're all still in their separate realities. And we try there to kind of it's a mixture of the kind of like pointing out the silly, but also if there is anything profound, that's where you come back to it. That's where you underline, you know, we've learned a lesson here. This is what was really important all along.
Beautiful. Is when you're coming on and scene painting like that, how
Uh,
much of that is um you're coming on to support the scene and make it beautiful, and how much of that is you're coming on to play with the other person and mess with them and uh get like is the scene more about the
yeah,
characters or is it more about the improvisers, or where does that balance fall?
it is more about the character. I mean, we've had some moments like in the last show we did. Someone came on and said like Sharon's really good at puns, and left Lou from our troupe trying to come up with fruit-based puns during a scene set in a grocery. Um, yeah, so there is a bit of that kind of pimping that
Hmm.
goes on, but mainly it is about support. Um, and I think it's sometimes you will be in a scene and you will do something, and you get this a lot in kind of workshops as well. Where everyone saw that thing you did
Hmm.
except for you. You're the only person who didn't pick up on that really great offer
Hmm.
that you made. So this is a way of kind of going in there and saying, "Oh, that was great. I love that. This is the thing that you want to dig into." It's almost a way of kind of like the whole troupe gets to do a little bit of subtle side coaching.
Hmm. Yeah, and was that? I'm trying to remember. I remember you said the monologues came from a workshop. Was that something that you just started to develop and use more and more and more of that signature style of play?
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Just threw them in. I mean, like I say, we like all of us in the group like those kind of theatrical
Hmm.
techniques, the kind of the scene painting and the narration, the monologues just felt like they fitted in with that. But it's also that kind of vulnerability thing as well. So I think one of the things I like most in improv is when you see someone who is prepared to be vulnerable, um, like on their character's behalf, but also on their own behalf. Because often we all get into playing characters that resemble us
Hmm.
a bit, and like for newer improvisers, I think it's often one of the hardest things to learn. Like you don't have to, your character doesn't have to be right. You don't have to defend your character. If someone endows your character as a terrible person, lean into that. They're a terrible person. That's it. Like it doesn't. It's not a reflection on you that
Hmm.
your character is a terrible person. So stop trying to defend your character. Um, and when people are like really good at having those moments of vulnerability, like I say, it just holds an audience in a way that some of the funny stuff maybe doesn't. So it's a way of having that balance.
Yeah. Do you remember ever feeling very vulnerable on stage yourself? And like, how did you develop that trust?
Uh, yeah, I mean, in those solo rounds I mentioned from the Maestro show,
Hmm.
um, that was my first experience of being like alone on stage doing improv, and it's not something I think most people are trained for. You know, you can do a lot of improv without ever being on your own, like on stage or in even in a workshop format. So that was to do that in a kind of in a show and a competitive show as well. I mean, obviously it's not a
Yeah.
real competition, but there was a winner. So so doing it in that kind of context
Hmm.
was pretty nerve wracking. But I think it's all in the feedback, isn't it? So I think the fact that I had that experience and lots of us did through that show, and it was on stage in front of an audience, I think that really helped because you get that feedback from the audience in a way that you don't always in certainly not in rehearsal with your troupe, and like maybe not so much in workshops with a
Hmm.
larger group either. You know, when you've got a real audience there and you can feel them sitting forward because they're really invested
Hmm.
in what you're doing, and then like something funny happens and it breaks the tension. You can really feel that. So I think that is, you know, the antidote to that feeling of vulnerability from a performer's point of view, at least, is having that feedback from the audience and
Hmm.
like getting that real time sense that actually it works.
Yeah. And this is a supportive audience that you're coming into. I don't
Mm.
know what scale you're used to playing on, but the Liverpool Improvisation Festival is a really cool venue with a lot of people who are really enthusiastic to see the shows. I'm wondering what made you guys choose to apply to Liverpool and what you're excited about for coming here.
Jen made us.
Brilliant. How do you know Jen?
She was living in Birmingham for a while, so a few people. I don't think I ever improvised with her when she was in
Hmm.
Birmingham. I took a couple of years out because of the pandemic and kids and so on. But yeah, so a few of us have performed with her. A few of us in the troupe,
Hmm.
and the rest of us know her from. She's come along and played our Midlands Improv night quite a few times. So yeah, uh, so we know Jen, and there's quite a few people that have played Birmingham and that we've met kind of from
Hmm.
Birmingham. So Sam and Emily from Play It Again,
Hmm.
um, Joe and Kathy Rinaldi played Birmingham. So there's a lot of familiar faces, but also I mean Liverpool is a great city. I've had some really nice times in Liverpool.
Is there anything you'd recommend to do there?
So last time I was in Liverpool was for the Eurovision Song Contest, which obviously is not going to be there right now.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to think what is the thing to
So,
do. There's the what's the music museum? What is it called? There's a big old music museum. It's not one of the Beatles ones. It's like a more general. one. They've got a hologram of Boy George, which is terrifying. So I would, so I'd say look up whatever the museum is that I can't remember the name of, and go and see the terrifying hologram of Boy George. That's my recommendation.
Wow. Okay, I'll take you up on that recommendation. The Music Museum, terrifying hologram of Boy George.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so exciting. And it's amazing the way in which Mark and Jen have fostered this, community across an entire country. And
Yeah, there's a small, if you trace it back, there's like a small number of people. There's maybe like six people holding together the whole scene in the UK, I think, basically.
and Jen is one of those people who just, uh,
He's three of those people.
just that is awesome. Are you? I guess there'll be jams and stuff. When was last? Because you said that you haven't really played with her yet
Mm.
because of the baby time. Are you excited for the chance to get on
Yeah,
stage together?
yeah. And also, I mean, just for me, because I have very little time for improv, sadly. You know, the
Hmm.
demands of work and family and so on get in the way. So I didn't get those opportunities to play with new people all the time. So yeah, I'm
Hmm.
definitely up for some jam opportunities and just like seeing some new stuff. Getting out of Birmingham and expanding my improv horizons is always a treat.
Yeah, it's possible that one more item will be added to the breakfast plate. Like maybe you'll see
Yeah,
something here and you'll be
yeah.
like, well, let's just try it out in a practice. And then
Yeah.
suddenly,
Now we'll go up to like a 40-minute show then because we're doing more stuff.
hmm yeah, put that in. All right. Oh, I have one last question that I wanted to work in, which was there any impro advice that you've received at any point that really changed the way that you play?
Oh, wow. I feel like that is the kind of question I should be able to answer. Um, so the thing that has just been in my head a lot recently is to slow things down and do less.
Hmm.
And I think that is kind of an evolution of, I forget where that came from. It's kind of an evolution of the way we've been playing recently. Oh no, I know where it came from. I was reading, I know where it came from, but I will not in the moment be able to remember either the title or the author of the book I'm thinking of. Yes, I will. Will Hines, How to Be the Greatest Improviser in the World. Yes. So that's the most recent improv book I read, and it was full of fantastic advice. And one of the things I really took from it is just about slowing things down and doing less, really kind of digging into the detail. So that's the thing I'm trying to challenge myself to do a lot more right now. Is don't overcomplicate. Once you've got a thing, explore that thing. Don't be in a hurry to add the next thing on, which is like a kind of one item at a time big breakfast, like a kind of a breakfast where I go up and I get the sausage and I sit down and I enjoy the sausage, and then only then do I go back up for my bacon. Yeah, so it doesn't really, the metaphor doesn't really work, but that's the advice.
Well, I think the metaphor works, and I'm feeling very full, completely satisfied by
Lovely.
this delicious interview. If people want to find Breakfast of Champions, or the Big Breakfast online, is there a way to learn more about you, see where you're performing, and the like?
Yeah, wow, there ought to be, didn't there?
Uh,
We are pretty terrible at social media. We're on Facebook. Yeah, so you can find Breakfast Champions on Facebook.
mhm.
Search for that and do your best because I can't remember the account name.
Yeah, but ultimately, you just got to see it live. You got to come out to
Exactly.
Liverpool, because
Yeah.
it's an experience that you'll only really understand. I can't wait to see it now. I'm very excited. All right. Well,
Cool.
thank you so much, Matt. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see
Love
your
to speak
show.
to you.